The moment is finally upon us. The U.S. men's national team is headed into a do-or-die, win or go home, round of 32 World Cup match at home, and they will do so against Bosnia and Herzegovina in the San Francisco area. And of course, as we do for every single U.S. men's national team game, I am David Gass, and I'm alongside Mr. Matt Doyle as we break it down here at Soccerwise. We were live on air late night against Turkey coming out of the last game. Now we're getting ready for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and hopefully we'll have another pretty happy live on air show after that one as well. We thank, first of all, soccer.com, who helps sponsor all of our U.S. men's national team coverage. It is your spot for U.S. national team and player jerseys to help support the U.S. this summer. You do get a free Goal Club membership with the purchase of any national team jersey with the code KICKBACK. The Gold Club is one of the longest running and largest soccer league programs in the country, and you can get a bunch of gear. You get fun, different U.S. shirts and all this other stuff to support this team. And they're pulling in some support, Doyle. Like, they are mainstream right now. I am seeing not just like sports coverage, but as I scroll through reels and jump around on TikTok the few seconds I'm there, it's just content creators. And their thing right now is the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, they've broken through, right? The World Cup overall has obviously broken containment in terms of the American cultural zeitgeist, but the U.S. national team the men's team has done so in a way that I don't think they quite managed in 2022. The only time in recent history they did it like this was when they failed to make the World Cup 10 years ago. So it's nice to see the balance swing in the other direction. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been, I think, the moment that you're hoping for.
So
and
far,
now the opportunity exists to continue it on. I think that's been the big conversation for all of this. So we'll talk about the Bosnia game. We will dig into some of what we expect to see. You're going to work on some tactical stuff coming out of this show that we'll have, of course, on our daily live show at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time every single day. It gets posted to our podcast feed as well. We're talking all World Cup because it's the greatest sporting event in the world, and we're having a blast with it. And, of course, we will talk about the U.S. pretty much every single day going into it. We also now have an idea around the pathway that exists to get to a World Cup quarterfinal, semifinal, and maybe something even more special. A reminder to everyone out there, we are doing some partnership stuff alongside American Outlaws. I've been a member since 2009, I believe. If you're out there and you're not going to one of these games and you're like, I want to be around my people to watch these games, find your local chapter, become a member, go to a bar, go to a watch party. I think for all of us, sports are about collective moments. Yeah. Sports are about being around people. It creates connections. I was out with the Egypt fans last night in Astoria. I was out with Knicks fans last week. I've been amongst good friends, U.S. fans, to watch this game. I've watched with you, with Michele, Sammy Stejskol's come by, right? Someone who I've known now for 12 years, and one of our main connection points is the teams that we watch together. So I think for everyone, if you're looking for that, join American Outlaws. If you're thinking, hey, this is really great, how can I help? Being a part of American Outlaws and helping grow the atmosphere that bring people in that have fun around these games and enjoy these games, I think that's a huge opportunity. So I'd really urge you to go do some research on where your local bars are and your local chapters. As you've sat with the Turkey game a little bit more, as you've sat with the end of the group stage a little more, where do you stand right now going into the knockout rounds?
I stand the same place that I was immediately after the Turkey game. I was really more happy than not with the overall performance. Obviously, the result wasn't what we had hoped for, and the way they gave up that final goal was tough, but even that felt like kind of a gift for Mauricio Pochettino, because now he has something to hit these guys over the head with about defensive intensity. He has real concrete film on here's how we need to defend the box, because that pattern of play that we saw from Turkey on that last goal, you're going to see a lot of that against Bosnia and Herzegovina, where they, control the ball down once. Christian Pulisic is probably not going to be getting nutmegged in the corner, but still, it's controlling the ball down one side, drag the defense up, and then hit a cross to the back post. Like, we will see that pattern. So all of it kind of worked to the benefit of the U.S. And the thing that we took out of that game was, oh, man, we really missed Tyler Adams defensively, and Tyler Adams is going to be back for this one, well-rested and ready to go. And it was a really good group stage. Like I have not felt this amount of equanimity about the U.S. men's national team ever.
Now, what's interesting is because of that, you have talked a lot coming into the World Cup of without qualifying, we didn't train the muscles of being nervous and uncomfortable. Then we went straight into, we blew out Paraguay. We basically had clinched a spot at that moment. Now I'm nervous about trying to deal with the stress of this single elimination game against a Bosnia and Herzegovina team that won't lay down, that won't be easy. But before we dig into it, we now know that it will be Belgium and a third-place team in the quadrant with the U.S. So when you look at some of the data going through this, Argentina has by far the easiest path to a World Cup semifinal
Did Eric
right now.
pay you to say that?
He did not. Turns out computers agree with Portuguese people who just go to cafes and yell at their friends over a coffee or two. The U.S., you could argue, has the second or third technically easiest pathway. So Bosnia, right now, we think it'll be Belgium or Senegal. It might be Belgium or South Korea. And then you go into a matchup against Spain. But this is the most the U.S. could ask for. Belgium, of the number one potted teams that aren't host countries, are probably the easiest matchup to get.
Probably. They haven't looked great so far, but also we all remember what Belgium did to the U.S. national team back in March. That was 5-2, and it was pretty brutal outside of the first 25 minutes or so. I don't think anybody in that locker room, including and especially the coach, is spending a single second thinking about Belgium right now. I'm sure everything is focused on Bosnia and Herzegovina because, I mean, it's the game in front of you. And also, if you look past Bosnia and Herzegovina, what happened to Italy? What happened to Canada in the first game? And I don't think Canada really looked past them, but Bosnia and Herzegovina gave them a real game and deserved that 1-1 draw. And the U.S., as good as Matt Freese and Matt Turner both are on penalties, and I do think it's a question of who's going to start, you don't want to be relying on penalties in this game. You want everything focused on this, and then hopefully you get the win, and then you start thinking about be it Belgium or Senegal or South Korea. It's not going to be South Korea, but be it Belgium or Senegal. Then you turn your focus to that.
Luckily, I don't play for the team. Luckily for myself and for the team.
Right.
So I'm going to look forward and just say...
I don't know. They could use your steal in the middle of central defense.
I'll scream at some people. Yeah. I could yell at some people. I think Tim Ream has a lot of that under control, though. The U.S., of course, will play. It's called Santa Clara or San Francisco Stadium or whatever fake thing. They'll play at Levi Stadium in this game against Bosnia and Herzegovina if they were to win. So that game's on July 1st, Wednesday. They would play on July 6th. So 5 days off in between. Not bad for a World Cup layoff. That game would be in Seattle. And, of course, the U.S.'s base camp in Orange County. And, of course, they played that game against Australia in Seattle, which was maybe the greatest atmosphere we've ever seen for a U.S. men's national team game. So it is a really friendly path forward for the U.S. And if they were to make a quarterfinal, that would be at SoFi, where they've played twice already and they're base camped, depending on traffic, 4 hours or 30 minutes away.
Yeah, look, host nations tend to get easier paths and more comfortable paths to a deep run if you take care of business and finish top of your group. And the U.S. took care of business, and now they get this nominally easier path.
I'm going to ask you a question you don't want me to ask, and then we'll move into the game. So in 1994, the U.S. qualified out of the group. That was the job. Mm-hmm. They changed the perception of the sport. 99, they won because they had to. What is the job for this team now that you know the path? What is the breakout moment if it's enough to have had because of all the advantages that come with being a host?
For me and you, winning this game is unquestionable. You have to win this game. And then to me, I think, and I think you probably feel this way as well, going against Belgium and giving them hell and outplaying them and, oh, damn, we lost. Thibaut Courtois was amazing. Or Jeremy Doku created 2 goals. And sometimes that happens. That would be enough. I don't think that would be considered a breakout amongst the populace. I think you have to beat Belgium. You have to get to the quarterfinals. And then you have to treat Spain like that. Yeah. You have to nobody should expect what happened in 2009 if the U.S. end up playing Spain. But if you make the quarterfinals and you put up a good fight and you lose 1-0 or 2-1, then I think that would resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, if you think about the U.S. coming into the 94 World Cup in Colombia being Pele's favorite to win the whole thing, and Romania having Gegeri Hagi, and Switzerland being a UEFA, not power, but a UEFA piece. And you consider it a miracle that they got out of the group stage and a breakthrough moment. I think the equal of that is beating a Belgium or Senegal in a round of 16 and getting to a quarterfinals. So to me, if you want to equal that magnitude of affecting the future of the game and pushing things forward, at this point with the stage, with the runway they have, it has to be quarterfinals. You have to beat one of these better teams, but still dark horse categories in a Belgium or Senegal or potentially South Korea. And then in what you said, you go against Spain, you go toe-to-toe, you show you belong on the field with them. Whatever happens, happens. Lamine Yamal is the best player in the world. Stuff happens, or it happens in your favor either way. I think if that's the case now, there's enough of a resonance from that performance, and also the runway of, at that point, this team will have started the World Cup on June 12th. At that point, they'd be playing a quarterfinal on July 10th.
Right.
It would be a month where they are central to pop culture. They are central to the sporting conversation. All of these players become the next Tab Ramos and Marcelo Balboas. They're on TV for the next 40 years, and they're getting interviewed, and they're getting talked about, and they become stars. And then the hope is they can amplify that going forward, whether it's playing for Milan and helping them push for a Serie A, or playing for NYCFC and helping them push for a Hudson River Derby.
Segue?
Whichever way it goes, we don't have to talk about Christian Pulisic getting paid out to play in Queens. Listen, if I could live in the world's borough, I would do so as well, no matter how much money you are offering or not. Let's dig into the matchup, and let's talk, I think, first about this moment, which is for all the pressure on Paraguay and that game to open the World Cup. There was always a tomorrow off that one. It was, and I think we said it, just get the result. If it's a draw, just get the result, move on, find your feet in the tournament. We are now past that. And with no World Cup qualifying outside of the Uruguay game in Copa America in 2024 under a different coach, this group has not had a do or die moment as they do coming to this one. So we don't really know how they handle the pressure of this level.
We don't. And my hope is that what we saw in the first 10 minutes against Paraguay, in the first 10 minutes against Australia, and the first 10 minutes against Turkey is what we'll see again in this game, because the U.S. came out flying. They weren't clean. They weren't 100% mistake-free in any of those first 10 minutes, but they set the tone, I think, physically and emotionally. And if you don't do that against Bosnia, if you don't do that in any knockout round game, then you're putting your backs against the wall really, really quick. They've been really good about that. It has been nice to see. It's the opposite of, I think, what we became in kind of the middle of 2023 and throughout 2024. Mauricio Pochettino has not outright said it, but certainly implied that is the thing that he has worked on most with this team. Like, toss the tactics out and anything else. It was just that mentality to come in and not be soft, to impose themselves upon their opponents, no matter the situation. And he's, why not us? Like he invented it. Like, we've heard that before, but it does work for this group.
Yeah.
And the danger in it is when people say, why not us? They don't mean why not beat Bosnia and Herzegovina. They mean why not beat Spain and Belgium. So there is a little bit of a concern where the messaging is maybe like looking past this. But this team has earned my trust over the past 270 minutes.
So coming into this match against Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bosnia comes off, of course, the dramatic playoff win against Italy at home to clinch their spot at the World Cup. Second ever time as an independent nation to go to a World Cup as Bosnia. 2014, frustration. They were out by the third game of the group stage. They don't get an opportunity to progress. Now they come into this World Cup. They open up in Toronto against Canada as a host country. So that part of this experience, they feel great about it. And everything you see from Bosnia fans online is like they're licking their lips. They feel, that they've been overlooked. They feel like U.S. fans don't really know much about them. They don't really care. They felt the same way about Canada, and they really enjoyed it. I think the best 20 minutes of soccer Bosnia has played at this World Cup was the opening 20 minutes of the opening game against Canada. I thought they set the tone physically and emotionally in that game. It is their largest spells of attacking possession against the two best teams they played in Canada and Switzerland. And one of the hard parts about talking about Bosnia is I don't really consider Qatar a World Cup team, so I don't really know what to do with that game. So what I would say is that first 20 minutes is the best 20 minutes of soccer they played. They held possession high up the field. They worked sideline to sideline. And then the reality is they will be a threat on every throw-in in the attacking half, and they will be a threat on every single set piece. And that's where they end up getting the goal.
Yeah, and they earned it by doing what you said. I don't think they'll be able to do that against the U.S. They shouldn't be able to do that against the U.S. And then they kind of ambushed Canada, who weren't ready emotionally in the moment. And Canada deserves all the credit in the world for the way they turned that game on its head in the second half and came back and not only got the point, but they probably should have gotten the win in that one. And that tells you Bosnia's not going toe-to-toe with teams like Canada when it comes to overall talent level. They shouldn't be able to go toe-to-toe with the U.S. on overall talent level. But as you said, every set piece, every restart of any sort is a potential chance for them. They'll do a 4-4-2 with two true strikers. Yeah. They'll play for knockdowns, not necessarily to each other, but they actually try to play knockdowns towards the channels and release, whichever strong side midfielder out ahead of the opposing fullback. Like that is how they try to get into the final third, because the strikers have no speed, so they don't really attack into the depth. It's all very clear. Like none of this is hard to pick up if you're scouting Bosnia, but like they're good at it.
Yeah.
That's why they're here. They're really good at doing these simple things, and they can suffer defensively. You don't get to this point in the World Cup unless you check a couple of those boxes.
So this is a group, you mentioned the size, the physicality, the two strikers up top. So it will be Demirovic, who has started every single game. 28-year-old at Stuttgart. There was real fears coming out of the Bundesliga season that he was injured and wasn't going to be available for the World Cup. He's been fully available. He has started all the games. He will be an option. Edin Dzeko, of course, is the big name in this group, 40 years old, national legend, a piece of everything positive that's happened for this country over the last 20 years. Did not play in the opening game against Canada, got the start in the second game, and then against Qatar was taken off the field somewhat early. I assume that is with an eye towards keeping him fit. With those two forwards and the way they set up, Paraguay didn't set up the same way, although they moved into it at times against the ball. And Australia, of course, a little bit of a different setup with the three across the front. How does that affect the U.S. build-outs? How does that affect sort of the shape? Because Bosnia had 38 and 39% possession against Switzerland and Canada. It will be game states U.S. on the ball.
Yeah, I think it'll look actually a lot like the Paraguay game. I don't think Bosnia will sit in the goalkeeper's lap. I think they will try and do like a mid-block 4-4-2 ambush. Then if they get pushed back, they'll change to like a sort of a 5-4-1. They're very good at doing that on the fly against the ball. The difference is Paraguay had Julio Enciso up top, and he could beat anybody on the U.S. for pace, and I don't really think Bosnia have that. Right. So that takes away sort of the direct route. What I would expect to see in those situations, first ball, second ball, then up the gut, is Dzeko dropping in to be actually kind of 9.5, almost a 10 at times, and that then releases the wingers. The wingers aren't especially pacey, so there's not a danger of, you're not chasing Luis Diaz out there or anything like that. But there are patterns. This team's good at them.
So one of the notes then in the attack, Amar Memic has started both of the two meaningful games, I'm going to call them, on the wing. So he started opposite Esmir Baraktarovic in the first game. He started across Karim Alabegovic in the second game. Mm-hmm. For the most part, Memic is a wing back. Yeah. And what we saw, especially in the Switzerland game, is he slid down to really defend deep out of a 5-4-1.
And he was a disaster.
He was a disaster. But it feels like, from a starting lineup point of view to look for, it feels like Alabegovic and Baraktarovic are competing for the same spot, even though they play opposite wings of one of you attacks and the other one becomes this wing back in Memic, who started in front of Amar Dedic, who's one of the bright young talents for this Bosnian team, as is Alabegovic, who's 18 years old at RB Salzburg and has been incredible in this World Cup.
You might be right. He was such a disaster against Switzerland that Memic might have lost his spot because that game was nothing for 70 minutes, and then Murat Yakin finally subbed in Johan Manzambi,
who's awesome,
and he completely changed. It was 0-0, and it finished 4-1 Switzerland, and I think Manzambi had a hand in all 4 goals. And the way Manzambi plays is basically like Weston McKennie. He's a striker who plays deep, but he's also a central midfielder who plays high, all at the same time. And his off-ball movement, it was like watching a facsimile of Weston McKennie and his movement, the way that he played against Paraguay. And Bosnia had 0 answers for that. The off-ball stuff in particular, obviously he scored 2 goals and had an assist, so he was really good on the ball too. But the off-ball stuff in particular completely undressed them. And the only game we've seen them play since that 20 minutes of terror they had to endure was against Qatar, which, what do you take from that?
Tarek Muhamerovic, 23-year-old center back, picks up the red card late in that Switzerland game. He's playing at Sassuolo. He is partially owned by Juventus. The reports over the last 48 hours are that he's headed back to Juventus. So a pretty big addition to come back in this team. He served his suspension against Qatar, and now he'll come back into the team, and that helps them strengthen. But a piece of the group that struggled with the movement out of midfield and all of the different signs. So let's move to the U.S.
And he also got
things.
ragdolled by Kyle Larin.
Yeah.
So he's a really good young, but it's not prime Nesta coming back in.
So for the U.S., let's talk about the starting group. If we say the starting 11, which I assume is Weston alongside Pulisic in front of Tillman and Adams with Balogun in front of them.
It's the same starting 11.
Everything
as Paraguay.
stays exactly the same.
Yeah, I don't. Seb Berhalter's really good in attack. There are other pieces that I think are useful for the U.S. national team, but we saw against Turkey the difference between the starters and the second string guys. And the second string guys have nothing to hang their heads about. Turkey's a good team. There aren't a lot of player pools in the world where you could drop your first 11 and have a performance like that. So there's real meaningful depth on this team. The starters are better.
With this group then, you talked about Weston McKennie's movement. What else stands out to you as keys to this game, or things you've not seen that you want to see, or things maybe you've seen that need to be amplified?
I think it just comes down to Weston McKennie's movement, the U.S. being clean on the ball and set pieces.
Yeah.
I think that's the entire story of this game.
Pulisic's spacing has been in the 75 minutes we've seen, but especially the first 45 against Paraguay was huge in that he got into channels, he attacked space at pace, and Jedi read that really well. With this Bosnian group, with some physicality and size inside, you still like seeing Pulisic come inside and be around that?
Yeah, I think so. You want him on the corner of the box like that, hopefully at speed, because I think they would be in real trouble if he's at speed approaching the box like that. The thing that we've seen, and this is where the questions about Bosnia's line of confrontation come in, the U.S. really do start in a 4-2-3-1 when they're in possession, and Jedi comes to the touchline, and if he has chance to sort of face up and play a ball into the channel, he's going to do that. Obviously, we saw it against Australia to great effect, but we also saw it in the first game against Paraguay. If Bosnia drop their line deeper and make it comfortable for the U.S. in possession, only once we cross the midfield stripe does it become the 3-2-4-1, where suddenly Jedi's pushing up further on the left, and we see the shift of Alex Freeman coming inside and becoming a back three. The U.S. have looked good when they've done that as well. So there's multiple ways that they can attack. The movement of the front four really has been pretty special. I thought that first half against Paraguay in particular was the best we've ever maybe looked as a national team, and part of it was Pulisic running in behind. Part of it was Pulisic checking in and combining, and then how clean Malik Tillman has been when he's deeper in midfield circulating. All of that boxes to check. The thing I want to ask you, against Australia, it was less of a double pivot. It was more of Tyler just sitting and protecting. I don't see a reason to do that in this game.
Because you think it leaves them too exposed?
I think it leaves them too exposed, and so it limits what you're going to get in terms of ball progression out of the central channel. Tyler's amazing defensively, but he's never going to take the ball in the half turn and hit the types of passes that Seb Berhalter was hitting against Turkey that just wrecked Turkey's shape. If Malik Tillman is in that spot, then he can hit those passes.
And I think with Tillman, there's going to be a ton of responsibility because trying to break down a low block, anyone who's coming to get the ball off the center backs to help them is going to have to be Tillman.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be his pure responsibility for this game, where Tyler is there for rest defense issues. And I think it's going to be Tillman and it's going to be Freeman stepping in at the right times and Tyler recognizing when he rotates out to become that third center back if it's necessary. And that, to me, is the X factor in this game, because Freeman is going to have to be as aggressive as he's ever been. One, because with his size, he can be a finisher if ball rotates over to the left side to Jedi and comes in as a cross, or even if Des gets to an end line and pulls it across. And then two, that is like the one space where U.S. pulls you wide. How do we cut you now open in the space you've exposed? Is Weston McKennie making the smart runs he makes, or Freeman making one of those runs? And I think that has massive responsibility. I think between Freeman and Tillman, that's how the U.S. breaks open this low block. And that's the two guys you need to have a great game. And the lucky part is the two of them have maybe been the two best players in the group stage. And so I think it poses really well. And I do think you'll see Tillman sit in a little bit deeper. The other thing is, if you sit a little bit deeper, then you have the chance to pick up where you want to and say, this is where I want to go. Yeah. But we've seen Tillman, I go back to, it was one of the goals against Senegal, or one of the chances he created, where he and Roldan like openly just moved the chess pieces around the way they wanted it. And I think Tillman, it's easier to start doing stuff like that, especially early on from deeper, where you can survey the whole field, you see where the pieces are, you see the way your team's movement's affecting things, then you start to get inside and try and change things. But he's going to have to be aggressive on the half turn if it starts to get slow. We've seen for the U.S., like you go back to some of the Nations League semifinals, some of the Gold Cup stuff where 35 minutes in, it hasn't happened yet. It starts to get a little bit tense. It hasn't been an issue for this U.S. team because that hasn't been the game states at all. But I still have those memories of watching a Paramount Plus broadcast and being like, Tim Ream hitting another line-breaking attempted pass that doesn't go anywhere. And the U.S. has been good, and they've gotten early goals, and set pieces have been a huge part of that. Shout out to Own Goal for having a really good tournament. But that becomes the fear, and then that get amplified by the pressure, which is it's win or go home time.
Yeah. Again, this team has earned my trust over the course of 3 games.
Agreed.
So even if we're an hour into this game and all we're doing is knocking on the door, I don't think there will be any panic, and I don't think there should be. One other point I want to make about the double pivot and leaving Tillman a little bit deeper, at least at the start of this game, Tyler Adams is world-class front foot pressing defense. If he has a partner, he can go hunt. Mm-hmm. He can go, and Bosnia is not just going to get on the ball and boot it upfield blindly. They're going to try to play a little bit, and those are chances to create high turnovers, and the U.S. have been pretty good when they've been creating high turnovers in this tournament.
So 2 games with the starters and then a full game of rotation. The one thing we haven't really learned, because it hasn't been necessary, is if it's not going right or if you need to come from behind or change the game, what the real tools are that Mauricio Pochettino has. Based off what you've seen in the group, I will say it now, Timothy Weah was horrendous in the last game. He's probably not the first guy off the bench in this game based off their performance against Turkey. Who do you think is the first options, or what are the levers that Poch pulls?
I mean, Gio Reyna absolutely is one of the first options. Seb Berhalter, if for set-piece delivery, if nothing else. I would lean in the direction of Haji Wright over Ricardo Pepi, because Ricardo Pepi gets ragdolled by big center backs, and Bosnia's got a couple of very big center backs, and Haji is maybe a more limited overall player. Maybe. I'm not sure. I think he is, but just for the sake of argument. But he's really good in the air, and he's really good in the air in the championship, which, okay, I don't rate the championship on a lot of levels, but they have a lot of big center backs who defend well in the air. So there are some answers, and A point I want to make, well, 2 points I want to make about Tim Weah. I am worried that he might be carrying some kind of knock because in the last World Cup, his top speed, I think, was like 34.5 kilometers an hour. I can't do the conversion.
I was going to say,
I don't know.
What's that in Celsius?
Right. In this one, I think he topped out at like 31.5 miles an hour. So it looks like a guy.
And you saw it in the way he played. He chose to go negative in times where it's like Weah's going to put his head
anytime
down.
he went positive, he lost possession. He got
in ways
pocketed.
that looked like Space Jam.
Yeah.
Like what happened to his powers.
Yeah. That said, I thought he was actually pretty good off the bench against Paraguay.
Yeah.
You know, and playing on the right. Playing on, he wasn't, I don't think we're ever going to see him play on the left again.
I've heard like all the complaints about. I mean, he's played there for Marseille. He's played there for Juventus. This was not. It wasn't a crazy thing from Mauricio Pochettino to play him there. That's the part that I think has been overstated. Is like, well, you put him out there out of position, and I do think there's a mental side of this. I think he choked in that he's like, I got to earn my minutes today. Yeah. Today's my chance, and then all of a sudden his touch was off, and it all just went downhill from there. But it's not insane to put a guy who I believe has scored goals and had assists in Champions League games from left wing back to play him at left wing.
No, I don't think so at all. But he was bad in a way that makes it so that you don't play him at that position again, at least in this tournament. And he was bad in a way that makes you wonder if he is carrying some kind of knock. Like, he didn't play against Australia, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So he goes from playing, I thought, decently off the bench against Paraguay to not playing at all against Australia to putting in the worst 60 minutes of his U.S. national team career against Turkey. And that, it just strikes me as odd.
Yeah. Anything big that I've missed? You mentioned Freeze and Turner off the top. I was a little surprised by that.
You don't rotate goalkeepers.
You think that's a sign? Well, okay, so if you think that's a sign, did Turner do anything to earn his second spot back?
I mean, I can't really blame him for any of the three goals.
Yeah.
Like, he got 5 hold on the last one, which is tough, but like that happens, right? He was, to me, it was a good read, and he made himself big in the right way. I thought his distribution and his command of the box were a lot better than what we've seen from Freeze in the first 2 games. Like, Freeze has had some really iffy moments, and not just the pass he overhit against Australia in the first 5 minutes, but also his decisions in distribution and when to pick the ball. Like, if you're being closed down, you're trying, like, when to pick the ball up. He's like going too early, and he's giving teams a chance, like not forcing them to extend their shape and then playing it too quick in a way that
you kill a half-second beat for your teammate to have more space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was weird. That was unlike him, because he doesn't he hasn't done that in the past for the U.S. and he doesn't do that for NYCFC. A little bit of nerves, a little bit of lack of confidence, and Matt Turner showed none of that against Turkey. If
you were Tom's cousin, give me the odds that Matt Freeze starts this game or doesn't.
I think it's 66.6% likely that Matt Freeze starts this game.
Yeah, it just feels like he hasn't lost the spot. I mean, technically, you rotated every single person that you could rotate in the starting lineup based off Roldan's injury,
right,
and yellow cards and all that stuff. So there's an excuse for Poch if it was hey, let me see Turner. Turner, maybe he was better, was not great, and I don't know if that was enough to be like, let's ride this hot hand. Because that's the other thing, right? If Turner had made 3 insane saves that just sometimes stuff happens, Turner gets on a heater, okay, I could see Poch being like, I got a hot reliever. Let me just see if I can run him for another 5 innings on this one. I'm just doing baseball stuff that makes no sense at this point, and see if I can get there. So
the other thing is Poch is kind of messy, and he loves drama, like, very clearly, and there's not been much.
Yeah. He's messy. He loves drama, but we have heard he is very non-confrontational with the guys that are his guys, right? That's part of the whole email story. And I've talked to a couple players who were in the pool, and they said, we weren't surprised. Poch doesn't give you bad news. That's not what he does. And part of, I think, the group he ended up with is some of the stuff you've said of like who got in the fights, who didn't. But I think part of it was like Luna's fighting for a starting spot, and Poch didn't want to sit in camp and be like, you're not starting. And so I think the excuse he has right now is he rotated everyone. Turner played. He'd have to go in the room and say, Matt Freese has lost his starting spot. Matt Turner is the starter without like a ton of reasoning. And it doesn't sound like that's his personality.
No, it doesn't.
And that's the culture that he's built.
Who would you start?
I would stick with Matt Freese at this point. I think.
Because he's got that MBA?
Yeah, exactly. He's actually doing a promotional on the PATH train for Berkeley College. I don't even know where that school is.
Speaking directly to you.
Yeah, I don't even know where that school is located. I just, you have a group that's played well, and he hasn't done anything to lose the spot. It was the same reason I thought he was the starter coming into the World Cup, even though Turner's been better in MLS, because it was his spot to lose, and he hadn't done that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case across the starting team. And I think that will be the same 11 that we see go out there. It's exciting. Like, it's fun. The team is fun. They've played on the front foot. They've played well. I thought Weston was so good against Turkey. Mentally, he's in a place. And that's the whole conversation with him.
He's hitting a level that very few central midfielders in U.S. history have hit. It's like him and Claudio Reyna and Michael Bradley. And
John O'Brien. For 95 minutes.
We can unpack that another time.
All right, we'll talk O2 World Cup again. This is the chance. This is a chance for us to do what I just did, which is in 10 years be like, well, we can talk 26 World Cup, right? Yeah. This is Balogun gets a goal, and now he goes into an echelon of the greatest finishers in USMNT history. Anyone who steps up big in this game, especially if it's an Alex Freeman who's already done it, goes into their lockdown when you have a best 11 all-timer conversation. They're just in there, right? Tony Sane, for all of what he did, he's in there for 0-2.
Right.
And Eddie Pope's in there because he's the GOAT. But there are other guys who just had great World Cup moments who get stuck in these conversations, whether they deserve to or not, or whether they end up on top of it. Clint Mathis ended up in the Bundesliga because of what he did in 0-2. And so this is it for this group. This is your chance to etch your name down. This is your chance to make it all worth it. And when the results came through, I was like, okay, Bosnia, it is what it is. As I've dug into it more, as I've watched them, as I've sat with it, as I've thought about it, I feel even better about the matchup. I think there are holes in this Bosnia group, and I think there's spaces for the U.S. to exploit. And I would be surprised if you got to halftime without the U.S. scoring. And even if it was 1-1 at halftime, I think I'd feel really good. Getting the first goal and saying, okay, we can break this defense, which I think has gaps in it, will give me all the confidence to say this team over the course of, it doesn't matter, 120 minutes. I don't really care.
Yeah.
5 days off in between, not a lot of travel. You've got a lot of advantages on that side of things. It's just about getting the result before penalty kicks. I feel pretty good about it.
Do you trust that feeling? Or is this you're just still on a Knicks high?
Yeah, I know. There's like a really good chance that 30 seconds into the Paraguay game, they gave up a chance like a minute and a half into, and I go, I bet.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to lose to Paraguay. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll get there pretty soon. And I won't be broadcasting that part of it, but we'll be on live.
I think if we do a live stream of you watching
Reacting
the game, we might go a little bit viral.
Yeah, maybe.
Good for discoverability.
It would end my career, but listen, I'm willing to take the bullet for all of us. And I would be willing to if the U.S. got a victory. They would move on to the round of 16. That would be on July 6th. We go live every single day, so we're going to talk about this game literally every single day leading up to it, including the day of. Then we will have our live show afterwards. And then we'll come back the next morning and we'll do it all over again. And we'll talk about it again. Hopefully, as you tune in over the course of the weekend, we'll be talking about a Canada victory over South Africa, Mexico.
You're fully rooting for Canada?
I always root for Canada.
I know.
Yeah. Right. When would I not?
I don't know. Some people are in the U.S. fan base are getting a little salty.
Jesse?
Yeah. I'm fully rooting for Canada.
I
found myself fully rooting for all of the CONCACAF teams, including Mexico.
I have a little Mexico. This is the most I've ever felt.
I think part of it is Gutierrez and Obed Vargas.
I think that helps.
Yeah.
I think some of the other young pieces as well feel less. Well, also, Julian Quinone is making everyone in the country deal with the fact that he's a black Colombian who's the best player on their team. That also is fun. Yeah. I like that part too. Also,
we won. Mexico plays like us now. They have 45% possession.
And they play with our players.
Right.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Mexico.
And then
we're fans now.
And there is the piece which I had talked about going into it. You know, both of us watch a ton of League MX. We love the league. We love the soccer culture, all that. The point of pride, I think, in some of the victory of this World Cup is people understanding CONCACAF. not just getting CONCACAF, not just Ivan Bartone on a call, on refereeing a game and making it miserable for you, but like watching countries say, oh, the dealing with these fans, dealing with this travel, dealing with the altitude, dealing with the way these teams can play soccer, the variance of what you can get, the quality of a Curacao versus the complete different style and quality of a Mexico or a Canada. I think that is one of the big victories of this World Cup in the soccer world.
Yeah.
Not, okay, what can you amplify and can the sport become major in America and all of that, but in the perception of an Italian fan who's sitting at home with nothing else to watch because their team sucks. The perception, I think, of people who are in the Asian Confederation, African Federation is like, we have said for a long time, it's really hard. All of the intricacies of this federation are really hard, and everyone's like, just go beat Honduras, like just go do that. And now they've got to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's given me
not
a little bit.
Not so easy to go just play Haiti off the field, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in 97 degrees and humidity and all the other things.
Oh, yeah. Like all of this stuff has been manicured, and most of it has been played in domes. Like they haven't even had to deal with weather yet.
Has anyone played on a cricket field yet? No. Go to Antigua and Barbuda, and then you can figure out what it's like. Go play a USL2 team who's weirdly a national team in the weirdest moment of your federation and bring Alan Gordon off the bench. That is football heritage for all of you. It's going to be a fun one. I'm excited for this one. This is, I've said it over and over again, core memories are made for people. I think Alex Freeman's goal against Seattle, the earthquake, his personality, that's going to be a core memory moment for a lot of fans. The way I think people feel about Clint Mathis's goal in 2002, the way I think people feel about Landon's goal in 2010, or the way I think people feel about Jermaine Jones's goal or Clint's goal in 2014. These are core memory moments for people, and this is the best opportunity for this team to do it for where they stand right now. So we'll be back on Soccerwise all week, every single day. We'll be back on First Touch as well. If you know people who are just getting into this or want to learn a little bit more, please share with them. Please go in and rate and review our show. It helps us move up the standings. Right now, while people are searching the phrases World Cup in soccer, we would love to come up really high on those lists. You can also watch us or like and subscribe on YouTube. So we'll thank you once again to soccer.com. Make sure you go there to pick up all your USMNT gear, all your Canada gear if you're still on our side. If you're not, all your anti-Canada gear. I don't know what they have there.
You switch into that Colombia kit later on today?
I guess I'm wearing it underneath this. I'm already in it. I guess you could go get South Africa gear if that's the thing you're doing.
Yeah, why not?
To be anti or figure out who they're going to play in the next round and go there. And all right, we will talk to you all again very, very soon.